Hey everybody, Mr. Lears here. We are going to continue our exploration of pop art, and we're going to switch to a different artist this time. His name is Wayne Thiebaud. So watch this video and learn a little bit about Wayne Thiebaud.
Thiebaud, and if you missed the retrospective of his work some months ago, don't worry, we've arranged this special showing. They say you should never start a meal with dessert, but you can use cake to launch an art career. 40 years ago, when painter Wayne Thiebaud looked at the swirling frosting on a shop counter, he couldn't help but see gooey gobs of oil paint.
Do you like the way that he used so much paint that it looks almost like real icing?
Not long ago, the Whitney Museum in New York looked a bit like a bakery window. On display, a retrospective of Wayne Thiebaud's remarkable career, featuring his now legendary menu of cakes and pies.
You could have picked anything, and you picked pie.
Yeah, I really don't know. I painted these 8 or 10 pies on plates and thought, well, no one's going to take me seriously now. But I couldn't leave it alone.
His voluptuous oils look like buttercream on canvas. You don't just want to look at his pictures, one critic said. You want to lick them.
I want some.
You take a lemon meringue pie. It's quite a beautiful thing, a piece of lemon meringue. It's more than just a subject. It's also a kind of relationship to the paint itself, where you really feel like you're sort of making the meringue and touching the cake or working with the pie.
At 81, Wayne Thiebaud is still going strong. And it's not just desserts on his plate or his palette. In his Northern California studio, he paints a range of subjects, from the surrounding landscape to the people in his life.
What did you think when you were painting this?
Well, she's a very good sport.
On the artist's calling card.
Did you ever feel like you were going to have to live with this label for your whole career, that you were the dessert painter?
I have. I have.
Is it frustrating ever?
Not really, no. It's actually nice that people call you anything.
Yeah.
You see, Wayne Thiebaud was anything but an overnight success. A cartoonist and drawing instructor in the Army. After World War II, Thiebaud went home to California to teach and to paint. But the serious minds of the art business had a hard time with his whimsical subjects. And one gallery owner told Thiebaud point blank.
He said, "Let me tell you something, Mr. Thiebaud." And I said, "Yes." He said, "You are not Picasso." I said, "You're right."
He came to New York in '61 to look for a gallery. And he started on 56th Street, and he walked up Madison Avenue and was turned down by every single gallery he went to.
So Thiebaud kept walking and landed on the doorstep of a dealer named Alan Stone.
And he was just there leaning against the doorway. And I hollered out, I said, "Can I help you?" He said, "No, I just want to rest here." I said, "What are those things under your arms?" He said, "Oh, there are rolls of paintings, but you wouldn't be interested in these. Nobody else is."
Stone coaxed the roll of paintings out from under Thiebaud's arm and put some up on the wall.
I mean, my first reaction to his paintings were, this guy must be nuts, you know? And because they were just these rows of pies and cakes and silly looking. And after a while, there was a kind of insistence and integrity about them that was undeniable.
And when Wayne Thiebaud's show opened at the Alan Stone Gallery in 1962, it was an immediate sensation. A sellout. The Museum of Modern Art even bought a picture.
Were you surprised at the sudden success of that show?
Absolutely. Shocked.
I mean, he was amazed that people would buy them, and I was too.
So how do you explain what happened?
Well, I think it was a very lucky coordination with what was happening in the art world. Pop art came in about that time.
An artist named Warhol was making his name with soup cans. Roy Lichtenstein was putting cartoon images on canvas. Time magazine put Thiebaud at the front of what it called the slice of cake school.
Your career was made almost immediately then, wasn't it?
What career there is, yes.
That's a pretty successful career, judging by the auction prices for your work.
The record price at auction for a Thiebaud work is a staggering $1.7 million.
Boss?
Well, that's another world, isn't it?
You're living in it.
Yes, uncomfortably.
I'm in love with this man.
When people look at your pictures, what do you want them to see?
I'd like for them to laugh a little. If we don't have a sense of humor, we lack a sense of perspective.
His work is about celebrating the joy of living. I always feel uplifted when I see his work. I mean, it makes me feel good. If it does that, man, that's enough. That's enough.
As far as I'm concerned, we have a legend here. A legendary artist.
When the National Academy of Design honored him last year, the artist said,
I haven't the slightest idea what art is, but to be a painter is something which you have to prove.
the challenge for a painter, Thiebaud says, is to transport you.
I have to confess, you're never really fully convinced of what you're doing. It's just, which is, I think, part of the joy of it. You know, it's like a.
That's what makes you keep trying.
Yeah, you keep hoping.
Wayne Thiebaud has made a familiar world arresting, appetizing, inviting, and all his own.
Okay, so that is a little bit about the famous artist Wayne Thiebaud. He's the pop art desserts artist, right? Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so he was born November 5th, 1920. Is an American, okay, Wayne Thiebaud is an American painter known for his colorful works depicting commonplace objects. Pies, lipstick, paint cans, ice cream cones, pastries, and hot dogs, as well as for his landscapes and figure paintings. Thiebaud is associated with the pop art movement because of his interest in objects of mass culture, although his early works executed during the 50s and 60s slightly predate the works of the classic pop artists. Thiebaud uses heavy pigment and exaggerated colors to depict his subjects and the well-defined shadows characteristic of advertisements are almost always included in his artwork. Right, this looks like a student example of what we can do with this project, and here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating three-dimensional works of art, three-dimensional desserts. Okay, now in the past, we have seen this artist before, and we have created desserts in perspective, which is also another form of 3D characteristics in art. This time, we're going to focus on 1 to 3 types of artwork and making them look three-dimensional. Okay. Here's some examples of three-dimensional forms. Three-dimensional art design is comprised of 3 main elements: balance, proportion, and rhythm. Balance denotes visual balance, not the actual ability to stand upright. Proportion refers to the various parts of three-dimensional objects, the parts needed to give the appearance of belonging together. Rhythm is the repetition of line or shape within the overall form, upright. Okay, so those are the three elements of design that we're going to focus on for this project. Okay, we're going to focus on three-dimensional form, okay, balance, proportion, and rhythm. Okay, here's what we're going to be doing. Okay, so you'll need paper, pencil, eraser, and ruler. Okay, maybe if you don't have a ruler, you can just use something else, the straight edge of a book or something. Okay, students will practice all the 3D forms on a sheet of paper. Once a student feels comfortable within their 3D forms, they will start their final paper. Using a new sheet of paper, students will create 3 or more forms that resemble a dessert, making sure to add the details like frosting, sprinkles, cherries, strawberries, all sorts of toppings, maybe even candles. Okay, using the thinnest black marker, if you know what a black marker, you got to use something else. You know, maybe just press harder with your pencil, maybe a black color pencil, black crayon, whatever you have. Preferably permanent trace all their pencil lines. I'm recording. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. So here's some examples of different desserts in the form of a cube. Okay, here's some different examples of different desserts in the form of cylinders. All right, and here's a cone. Okay, so those are the three dimensional shapes or forms that I was talking about before. Okay. All right, so here is some examples of different desserts using cones and cylinders and cubes. Okay, so at this point now we're going to practice drawing these 3D desserts. Okay, so now that we've learned a little bit about Wayne Thiebaud and the kind of artwork he makes, we are going to attempt to make three-dimensional artwork, the same kind of desserts, 3D forms. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with, so have your paper and pencil ready today. The first one we're going to start with is a cube. So if you want to make a cube, here's how I do it. And there's a couple different ways. All right, so you can start by drawing a square. Okay. And then after you draw a square, every corner, I want you to draw a diagonal line. Diagonal, diagonal, diagonal. And after drawing 3 diagonal lines, all you do is connect the diagonal lines. 1, 2. So there's like a cube shape. You can do the same thing with a rectangle. Start with a rectangle. Every corner, you draw 3 diagonal lines, and you connect the lines. Right, and that's how you make a 3-dimensional cube. And if you haven't been able to tell, I am using the images right there on the screen. Okay, so if we want to make, let's say, a layered cake, you would start with a square or a rectangle shape, right? You draw the 3 diagonal lines. 1, 2, 3. Connect those lines. All right, now we're going to start adding the details. So I'm going to start by adding that dripping frosting. There it goes down. Okay, so it's dripping with frosting right now. And then if I want to add the layers of cake, stop, jump to the other side, keep going. And it goes that way. So just a horizontal line. Okay, so there's a piece of cake. All right, let's try the pie this time. So I think we'll do the cherry pie at the bottom. All right, we're going to start with the triangle. Now, well, here's how you make it 3D. You just put a triangle. Okay, there's my triangle. And then I'll put a rectangle underneath that. There you go. There's a 3D prism type shape, triangular prism. So I'm going to start by adding a couple of details for the crust. So there's the crust. It's just a wavy line. I add a couple of, I think those are the poke holes for the air to come out for the pie. There's a thin crust on top and a thin crust along the sides. And then you get to fill it with all the delicious cherries. They're just circles, guys. All right, let's try a different pie here. Let's try, what is that, an apple pie. So do the same steps. So you put a triangle, right? And a rectangle underneath. Okay, let's give it some crust. Fill up a couple of the air holes. And then the crust on the bottom. And then you can put little half circles in there. You can overlap to make the different pieces of apple in the apple pie. So why don't you guys take a few minutes to practice drawing desserts with in the shape of a 3D cube. Let me see if I can get my timer over here. Actually. Okay, so why don't you take 4 minutes to draw those different desserts using the shape of a cube. Timer starts now. Okay, for the next part, we're going to work on making different desserts using cylinders. Okay, so I'm looking at the picture in the upper right-hand corner, and for a cylinder, I usually like to start with a round or like a letter U that's been squished. Okay, and then to make a bowl, I just put 2 lines that go up, and then I use that same squished letter U to make the first part of the bowl. And then since there's going to be ice cream in it, I'm going to use half circles. And then I'm going to put some fudge dripping on there. And some sprinkles. Okay, and then for the root beer float, it's kind of the same concept with the squished U. And then 2 lines that go up from the sides. And then another squished U. And this one we have to put 2 letter C's for the handle. C. And a C, so there's the handle. And some details for the glass. They're just long ovals. Okay, and then I'll put a couple of scoops of ice cream. And a straw. Some stripes on it. Okay, to make that little cupcake, same thing, the squished little U. 2 lines that go up. Another squished U. I'm going to make the cherry first, which is just a circle with a rectangle coming out of it. And then where that cherry is, I'm going to draw 2 lines that go down to the edge and then give it some frosting. All right, for that cylinder cake, we're going to draw that squished U, 2 lines that go up, another squished U, and I'm going to draw the straw, which is a little squished U, and it goes straight up. And put an oval on there, and then some stripes. Finish an oval off right here at the top, except for when you get to the straw, stop, jump to the other side, and then draw some drips for some frosting. Okay, for that milkshake, we're going to start with a tiny squished U and 2 lines that go up, and then 2 little curved lines that go up, and then 2 more curved lines that go up, and then another squished U. At the bottom, we're going to put an oval, and then we'll put a straw for the milkshake, and what looks like some sort of topping, which is a half circle, and then finish off the top of the cup. Okay, so why don't you take a few minutes right now to draw some desserts. Draw 1 or 2 or 3 of these desserts using the cylinder shape right now. So let me, okay, so take 3 minutes to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so for the last part, we're going to focus on the cone shape. And to draw a cone, it's not that hard. All you have to do is draw an oval. So you draw like a sideways oval. And then put a triangle underneath it. And that's how you make a cone. So don't be afraid to add all different kinds of details on toppings. I'm going to start with a triangle, but a little squished U right there. And then I'm going to put the waffle cone details, which are just diagonal lines, crisscross lines. All right. There we go. And then I will put, you want to start with the top scoop. So I think I'm going to put a cherry on mine, and I want it to be, all right, and then I want it to have some syrup dripping on it, some chocolate syrup. And then I'm going to go to my next scoop, which is going to be a different flavor, which are just circles, right? And I think this one is going to be mint chocolate chip. And then for my last scoop, I'm going to put a little drip right here. It's melting a little bit. I think I am going to put some, let's see. It's going to be fudge ribbons in there. Okay, so why don't you take a few minutes to draw some desserts using a cone. Okay, go ahead and take a few minutes right now to do that. Okay, that's all the time I have with you for this week. Set these aside, put them in a safe place. We're going to continue working on these next week in class. Do not work on them. Do not color them. Set them aside, put them in a safe place so that you have them to work on for next week. Right, I hope you had fun making these three-dimensional desserts. I always love making artwork about desserts like Wayne Thiebaud. I look forward to seeing these next week and working on them with you next week in class. Have an awesome day. See you next week.